start with the positives. The boys played hard to the end of the game and competed last week. There was no finger pointing on the sideline. There was no lack of composure amongst themselves. I thought the players prepared hard all week and brought their best effort to the game. We didn't bring our best performance, so draw a line there between effort and performance. We outrushed our opponent, and Eastern Washington clearly has made a pivot away from the run game and toward the passing game. Found a young quarterback who played incredibly well the last two games. A lot of credit to him and what they're doing and the way that they've closing out their season. From our perspective, some positives to take away from the game, but overall, I think it was 8 or 9 turnovers, 5 interceptions, and 4 turnovers on downs. Some of those were desperation situations or just outside of field goal range, but too short of a field to punt, and so we didn't have a lot of options at that point. So we found ourselves in some situations where turnovers on downs or turnovers in general occur. We threw an interception at the end of each half in kind of a desperation situation. But I don't want to sound as if I'm shirking responsibility. I think sometimes as coaches we can say, oh, if we just if we don't turn it over, we win, or if we just make some more baskets, we win. There are a lot of moments leading up to those turnovers, and we failed to really rely on our run game enough and be efficient enough in our passing game. We didn't create very many big plays in our passing or running game, and we weren't consistent enough on defense to keep the game close enough to let the game play itself out without taking undue risks. So we came out of there with a really difficult loss. It's exceptionally difficult because in some other losses where we've played against really good teams, felt like coming out, okay, we'll give them a lot of credit, and it's a good team that we lost to, and if we played that game 10 times, we may not win half of them. That's how it's felt after some of the losses. This last game felt like that was a little bit of an outcome that wouldn't be very repeatable. I think we could win our share of games against Eastern Washington. We failed to do that on that day. All credit to Eastern Washington, not trying to take anything away from them, but we certainly did not bring our best performance. And now we sit in really what I would call a must-win situation, where we've got our final chance to win a conference game at home this year. We've got a team that I think has underachieved in the win-loss column. This would be a big step in the right direction. I think in a bottom line business of just charting wins and losses, we have a chance to get to 4 wins, which would be the most in 9 years around here. Some clear progress and direction in terms of, in my time here of where we're going, but also just a lot of heartache and disappointment. And I think a win would send our seniors out on a high note, give them something to be proud of. I think keep them interested as young alumni in the direction of the program and maybe feeling like they were on the front end and laying some of the groundwork. And for all those reasons, we're all really motivated to put in not just a great preparation week of effort, not just a great effort on game day, but a winning performance.
You talked a lot last week about needing to have more fun during the game. You said effort was good, performance maybe not quite there. Do you feel like the guys are playing looser, not so much just staring at the scoreboard?
Yeah, I think there was a lot more of that. We made some plays late in the game when the game was almost mathematically over, and the sideline guys were into it. We even had a defensive guy showed a clip where Josh Harvey made a tackle late in the game. It was a really nice tackle, came up from deep in the safety position and made a very solid tackle. And Andreas Rodriguez suffered a minor foot break. It may or may not need surgery, but he'll be out this week and back next year for sure, back in time for spring ball. But he was on the sideline in a boot with, it had already been x-rayed. He found out he had a broken foot, and he's over there celebrating, as was much of the sideline. even where we were pushing to climb back in the game and had the ball on the 1 yard line, and I mean, how do I say it without getting a fine? We made a push over the goal line, and it was ruled not a touchdown, in that moment the guys were celebrating that moment, and then I lost composure and got an unsportsmanlike penalty on myself, and our guys were cheering on that moment, like still in the fight, and appreciated the fact that that I still was in the fight too. I regret the way I handled it. Regret the unsportsmanlike call, and could have done it a different way. Could have objected to the call and could have asked for a challenge in a less demonstrative way, and I should have done that. And I've explained to our team that that's unacceptable behavior by me. And yet, to answer your question, those moments showed a lot of real fight and guys into it. They were doing that on the field, and as a coaching staff, we hadn't lost our confidence to come back in any of those moments. It's just that many turnovers makes it so difficult to win and sustain any type of effort that's going to end in points.
How will you guys reset with the offense?
It does start with the quarterback, so I've got to acknowledge that. I have been trying to acknowledge for the past few weeks that when we've had an incumbent starter coming back and healthy and are struggling on offense, that there was no way to unscramble that egg. It was right, in my opinion, for both quarterbacks to play. I think coaches should make a tough decision in the offseason when it's close between two competitors and give it to a guy, not create a quarterback controversy unnecessarily. But I think we've played our way into a quarterback controversy in the last few games. But going forward this week, Eric is our starter and Peter's our backup. And I think that the on-field performances, while neither one has played up to their potential or their own goals, Eric has played a little better to this point statistically over the last couple of games when both guys have been getting some series in with the offense. And so Peter has handled that, as I would expect, like a champion. He will be the very best number two quarterback he can be. He's prepared hard all week up to this point. He's got a lot of respect from his teammates. Eric is prepared to do his part, and I think in both of their cases, they don't need to feel like they're one play or one series or one mistake away from losing the job that they've worked so hard for. So I think that could be a bit of a reset for us, a bit of an advantage going forward, a bit of clarity for all the guys playing around those two quarterbacks, a bit of clarity for our offensive staff, who is trying to maximize two guys' potential to win rather than one. And so in this case, we'll be able to put more game plan thoughts. Not that we reinvent the wheel every week, but there are some game plan thoughts that go into each week, and to be able to do that with a clear direction about who our starting quarterback is, I think will be a kind of a first step in an offensive reset. And defensively, in no way have we put out what we consider a winning defensive performance. We've had, I thought we started the season strong on defense. I think we've had strong moments throughout the season at times. I think we have the potential to play really good defense, but in no way were we satisfied with our defensive performance a week ago. We got to play much better to win.
Then you've talked for 3 years now about building through freshmen and kind of retaining them to senior. With senior day coming up, how many guys are you honoring, and then what impact has this group made on the program?
Yeah, I appreciate that question, and just contextually, in my first year, as you may remember, I didn't cut anyone. It's not my philosophy to do that. So I came in and took over a program, and I was the new guy, and made a commitment to develop anyone who wanted to stay. And we only had 4 seniors recognized on senior day that year. That might be a world record low. And then last year it was 9, which is a big step in the right direction. when you watch the playoffs this year and then the national championship game, they're going to have in the high 20s to low 30s in terms of seniors being recognized. That's the mark of a program where guys are enjoying their experience. They're sticking in there together, and especially in this era of the portal where transferring is so much easier. That's really the mark of a strong program, is a group that can retain some seniors, develop some seniors. So we'll have 19 this year. I think that's just a major, huge step in the right direction. All of those guys have had an impact on the program in one way or the other. At the same time, it's still a very young team. Only 5 of those guys have ever started consistently, and 3 of them are currently starters. So I think it's been a fairly linear progression in terms of recruiting a lot of these high school freshmen, retaining them through the program, developing them. They're now starting to get on the field. Those aren't our seniors yet in year 3 in terms of my time here. But the seniors that are here are guys that have maybe been recruited by a different staff or have been transfers, and now they've stuck it out, and I'm really proud of them.
27 turnovers in 11 games to this point. What do you do with that?
Yeah. Well, we've had our turnover problems too. So our first order of business is to take care of our own yard, mow our own grass, so to speak. But I do think there's some similarities with Portland State and UNC. Like every team in the Big Sky, there are good athletes on the field for Portland State and for UNC, and yet we're not at the win totals. Either program is not at the win totals where we wanted to be at this point in the season. Turnovers happen when teams are pressing for victories, pressing to stay in games, pressing to come back. That's when most turnovers occur. And if you look at Portland State, it's kind of the same situation. I think both of us would love to come out and establish a quick lead, run the clock out, and sit on a 2-3 score lead and get a victory. But that hasn't happened. And so typically the teams that have that are at the bottom of the conference end up with the most turnovers or the worst turnover margin. But it can kind of be a chicken or an egg debate. The teams that are leading aren't going to take a lot of unnecessary risks, and the players aren't pressing. We've talked in here before about the difference between maybe a team quitting or giving up as a season turns sour versus my perspective. I think more often they just press too hard, and then the score, a fairly close game, can get further away. I think we played Eastern Washington from a total yard standpoint, for example, from a rush defense, rush offense standpoint, we're right there or better. The turnovers were the tail of the game, and that can often be the case. So I think in Portland State that's the case. Is just they've got a group of kids that are fighting like hell to get a win, and doing whatever it takes, even as a coaching staff. And when it's appropriate to have to take a little more risk when you're down a score or two, and the game is getting close to the end, then that's what they're doing.
You called it a must-win, so I think I have an idea of what your answer will be. But how big is or how crucial is a win this week for confidence heading into the off-season? Whether that be for fan support, player retention, even. But
yeah, how
crucial is this one?
Yeah, When I say must win, I would. If somebody asked the question, I would call every game a must-win. We just put so much work and effort into it. We believe that we can win every week, and so it's devastating when we don't. I do think overall, though, like I said, for our seniors to be able to look at unequivocally, if you can accomplish the most wins in almost a decade for your school, that's something to be proud of, and something that's easier to explain as a tangible indication of progress, and to say that you were a part of that. 3 wins doesn't do that for us. 3 wins doesn't create that same story. Every season's different. Every opponent's different. Some seasons' schedules are more difficult than others. Strength of schedule, but really nobody looks at that. In the end, it's just kind of a bottom line: how many wins, how many losses, if any other team or coach in this conference can say that they had a season that's their best season in 9 years, that's probably a really good indicator that they're having a strong season. And so I think our players are well aware of that. They're chasing that. At the same time, it's all about beating the opponent that's here, and then they're good players that have capabilities. For 2 quarters they played a really good Montana team last week, toe to toe, and got scores and stops and takeaways, and they're very capable. Like every team in the Big Sky is very capable. We put a lot of these teams at the bottom of the Big Sky, put them in another conference around the country, and they're a champion and an automatic playoff bid team. And I would say Portland State's right in there.
I think take this opportunity to ask you a little bit about Garrett, if there's something you could. I'm glad to see you nodding your head.
Yeah.
Something about Garrett. I know you have a lot of players, and I haven't been doing a little reading on him, but I could certainly use the help.
No player has made a bigger impact on our culture than Garrett Bean. There's what he does on a day-to-day basis, the way he shows up as initially as a walk-on player who was dissatisfied with the experience he was having at a different school. He felt like people weren't pouring enough in. And I thought that was an interesting, when I first met him, I thought that was an interesting take for a young person to have, because a lot of times we don't know what else is out there and how much other people work, and so everybody feels like they're working pretty hard. But he felt like he just wanted to be a part of a program that worked harder, and he came in and set the standard from day one. Shows up every day with a great attitude, no matter where he's at on the depth chart, no matter whether he's playing in a game or not playing in the game, whether he's on the travel squad or not. He shows up like a true professional every day from a work ethic standpoint, and then more than that, he's really the glue that holds, especially our defensive line, but maybe even a lot of the whole team. As a local guy, he's got access to back home, and they've got a pond with fish in it, and a lot of our guys on the team had their first fish they ever caught was at Garrett's house. So. And he's very. He and his family have just been so open with their property and their inclusion of the guys. And I think there are guys, a lot of guys on our team that 30 years from now we'll still be talking about the good times they had at Garrett Bean's house. So.
Thank you for that. That says a lot.
I feel like from the outside, that's an aspect we don't see a lot of. If a guy's not necessarily making a ton of plays on the field, his name can be forgotten. But
Right.
How crucial are those glue guys, and how much has that changed from when you came in year one to where you're at now with that culture of whatever you want to call it?
Sure. It's a little tough. I think when you first come in and take over a program, the players don't know me very well, and I don't know a lot of them very well, and I don't know their parents. Didn't participate in the recruiting, and so a lot of times we can have a misunderstanding about what a guy's truly about. And as players, maybe they think I'm only about my coaching career, and I assume that they're only about their individual stats or something like that. And that's really the difficult part in the first couple of years, is kind of dealing with adversity that happens on the field, or depth chart adversity. Guys are disappointed, and there's not a common history or enough of a relationship to really talk through those moments and find out what's truly important to the guy. And to know a guy like Garrett Bean, and really all the guys on the team now, to know what's truly important to them, which is the way they handle themselves on a day-to-day basis, regardless of the adversity of losing a spot on the depth chart, losing a game. There's a bigger picture in how they carry themselves, how they prepare for the next game and for the next step in life. And from that perspective, I do feel like we're there. There's no player on this team that I question their commitment to the full team effort of winning. There's no player on this team that I feel like is doing it for selfish reasons, opportunity to improve their own numbers or play outside of our system or something like that. We've had our struggles. It doesn't have anything to do with right now with team culture. We've just got to continue to strive to coach and play better to get the elusive victory.